Hi, this is episode 2 where I'll talk about the splash shape and what it means. First, I'll let you know what I'm talking about when I talk about shapes. Then, I'll explain how to identify how you have the shape. Then, we'll look at some celebrity examples. And last but not least, I'll tell you what it means to have this shape. So, the shapes were categorized by this astrologer called Mark Edmund Jones, and he wrote extensively on the topic. He only looks at the pattern that the planets make by where they're sitting, and he only includes planets, meaning the traditional planets and the sun and the moon. And basically, it gives you insight into the general pattern of self expression. And that's basically what I'm talking about and what we'll be looking at in all these videos. So, how do you know you have this shape? All of the planets are relatively evenly distributed around the chart. You can have space in between planets, but usually no more than 80 degrees or no more than 2 houses. And usually, those houses that are empty are not adjacent, or at least not adjacent every single time that there's a space. Other things that can clue you in is if you have at least 8 of the 12 houses occupied by a planet. Also, if you have a stellium, it does not automatically disqualify you from this. Just keep track of the other planets and where they are located. One thing that makes this shape more likely is if your Venus or Mercury are not hanging out in the same house as the Sun. I've explained to you guys before that Mercury and Venus cannot be too far from the Sun at any time. They're usually no more than 45 degrees for Venus, I believe. So if they are more than a sign away, you can have a high chance of having this shape. The splash overall is the Jackson Pollock of the shapes. It just basically means that the planets are scattered all around the shape. And having a stellium does not automatically disqualify you from that, as we'll see in the next slide with a chart of Leon Trotsky, who was a politician from Ukraine. And I'll explain to you why he still qualifies according to Mark Edmund Jones. So as you can see, he has a stellium there on the 10th house, but he still qualifies for a splash type because 8 out of the 12 houses are occupied, so Jones considers him to be a splash pattern type. These are other ways that the shape can look like. I think it's easy to confuse it with other shapes, especially the seesaw and the locomotive, but that's why the technicalities are important when it comes to this thing. But also don't take it too seriously. Just take what resonates. You can look at both the splash and the other type of shape that you're thinking it could be, and take what resonates only, and don't worry too much about it. Well, here's an example of one that would be sort of borderline. It kind of looks like a bucket, but also kind of looks like a splash. And this is Shakira's chart. I actually would consider her to be a splash type and not a bucket because the empty space is kind of small and like 9 out of 12 houses are occupied, and also the handle has 2 planets. I know that some say that you can have more than one planet as a handle, but I don't know. Just to me, the overall shape and the fact that the planets are kind of evenly distributed, I would say that she is a splash, and it kind of makes sense. She does do a lot of things. I guess you could call her well-rounded. She writes, she sings, she dances, all of that. So yeah, let me know if you agree or disagree with that. Ariana Grande is another one that I consider to have a splash type of chart. All of the planets are pretty evenly distributed. Also, I think she has 9 out of 12 houses occupied. And even though it can look like a locomotive type, I think the space that's empty is too small. It doesn't have that 120 degree that is so like locomotive. So, but I can definitely see the case for the other one, but I honestly just think that she's a splash. And same like Shakira, she's well-rounded and she kind of has several things she's good at. Like she writes, she sings, she's been an actress. So yeah, and I think she also produces. I don't know much about her life. You let me know if you know. The keyword with the shape really is scattered because you have a lot of interests and you can have a lot of hobbies and you can be very versatile. So you have all this energy all over the place, and it can make you really skillful in a broad range of areas, but it can also confuse you because you don't really know what you want to do. You don't know where you want to go. You're kind of going everywhere fast, but you don't really know what the end goal is. So yeah, there can be some confusion in the beginning, but you have the potential to be really good at multiple things. Have this sort of jack of all trades type of energy. You can be really active, really curious, and you can have a lot of energy. So that makes sense because you need that energy if you're going to be doing all kinds of things and going in all kinds of directions. You can come off a little bit selfish to people because you really crave independence. But the reason for that is that you're really trying to find yourself because there's not a sharp boundary between you and other people. Unlike people with a shape that we discussed previously, the bowl, they are very self-contained, but that's not you. You're everywhere. You're spilling everywhere. So for that reason, you're attracted to topics and fields of study that teach you about the inner self and how to find yourself. So that's something that's kind of a challenge for you. So yeah, this type of people can have a wide variety of interest, and it can also show you that you will work in different fields. I think the most excellent example of the splash type is Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, even on his Wikipedia, they say he is a person with a vast range of interest, and he sort of had this cowboy persona. So that definitely touches on that active lifestyle, which he did that on purpose, but it was pretty cool. Also, he was like a writer, and he worked as a police commissioner. He was president, obviously. He did other stuff in politics. He was a statesman, like all kinds of stuff. So that's a pretty good example. Another one is Monica Lewinsky. And in her case, the scandal and all of that. But she's done quite a few things, actually. I think she did some sort of fashion design at some point. I know that she was spokesperson for some products and also a TV personality. And also lately she's been like an activist against cyberbullying, on top of her like education and all of that. So, but that leads me to something that is the last thing I want to say about this topic before I end the video. So yeah, last thing I want to mention is that the scattering effect will be more pronounced if you have a lot of planets in mutable signs like Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And the reason for that is because those signs already have a scattering effect. You will have a better balance if you have a lot of planets in fixed signs like Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius because they're solid and they serve to anchor you. And last but not least, if you have a lot of planets in cardinal signs like Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, then you will still have the scattering effect, but it will be a lot more forceful because of the nature of the cardinal signs, which are very action and based and driven. So that's it for this shape. If you found this video helpful and if you enjoyed it, please consider donating to my Cash App or consider following me, leaving a comment, liking this video. Or also, you could send me charts of famous people that are pretty distinct so I can use them for future videos. Thank you.